Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. If you watched our angry reaction video last night, you know we were quite upset, quite angry. It was 1 a.m., a lot of emotions flowing. I got a good night's rest after drinking all that bleach last night. I survived. So we're here back for another day of New York Giants podcasting. And, there's a lot to talk about, from bad officiating to Jason Garrett to the defense. To what Kenny Golladay was screaming at Jason Garrett, Kadarius Toney's social media posts after the game, and of course, the success of Daniel Jones and how great he looked and what this offense would have looked like if they didn't drop multiple passes, Anthony. Before we dive into the good stuff, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Doing as well as I can after that loss. I'm not happy. I'm coming to grips with reality, so I'm not as sad as I was last night. But, that was a painful loss. Really, really sad one. Giants had it. The refs kind of took it away in a couple ways. The Giants also took it away from themselves. They should have won that game, but they made some really costly mistakes. Joe Judge made some mistakes. Dexter Lawrence made a mistake that, upon further review, doesn't really look like he made a huge mistake. If you take a look at that video, I'll try and clip it right here while I'm speaking about it. It looks like he timed the snap perfectly, but he timed it so well that the refs just threw the flag anyway.
Which is
I don't
ridiculous.
know, really, really ridiculous. Yes, Alex. And of course, we can talk about the Slayton drop. We can talk about the play calling at the end of the game offensively, where they played that super conservatively. But at the end of the day, it's just time to reflect, review, and I guess move on to next Sunday. But man, what a tough one. And we got some good topics to discuss today regarding last night's game. So ready to get into it with a real long look on my face.
Well, you know what? I'll start off saying this. The Giants should have won this game. Hand over fist. They should have won this game. But you can't give up 30 points to 𝐚𝐟𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐢𝐴. That's first and foremost. The Giants missed a couple opportunities. The refs blew a couple calls. Of course, the offsides at the end seemed to have been a false flag. And then the CJ Board hold, and then the Darius Slayton drop. The Giants should have ended up blowing them out by multiple touchdowns. But the reality is the defense still allowed 30 points to 𝐚𝐟𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐢𝐴. And one of those drives at the end there was a 2-play drive that went 75 yards, right? You recall that drive right out of the gates. It was that shot to McKissick on the sideline with Tay Crowder in coverage was a little bit concerning to me. I don't know why they had him. They tried to do that same play later on the final drive, and Jabril Peppers was on him and really shut him down there. So I think that the Giants, they realized that they can't have Tay Crowder on a running back. They should have known that all along. And then, of course, they had the touchdown to Ricky Seals-Jones on a Dory Jackson. And I know Dory Jackson's a corner, but Ricky Seals-Jones is about 1.5 feet taller than him. So it was kind of a bad matchup to begin with. There was a lot to hate about the defense. This soft zone coverage that they were playing, and then, they weren't getting enough pressure. Anthony, what is your impression, first and foremost, on the pass rush? Azeez Ojulari had a sack to open the game, but after that, there was nothing. Leonard Williams, I didn't see him at all. I think he only had 2 pressures the entire game. The interior guys, Dexter Lawrence, didn't see him much either. Lorenzo Carter didn't do much. It's really concerning to see this pass rush not showing up when they needed him most. And 𝐚𝐟𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐢𝐴 was just picking them apart from the pocket, which is exactly what his weakness is. A really big concern there. And then, the coverage itself was also bad. James Bradberry had a tough game aside from the great interception. Dory Jackson was picked on towards the end there. The safeties also didn't make an impact like we would expect them to. What is your take on the pass rush right now? Because that really, I think, is our kryptonite. The secondary hasn't looked great, but the pass rush hasn't been there to help them whatsoever.
Yeah, the pass rush hasn't been good. Azeez did have that sack early on in the game, but for the most part, he kind of went MIA for the rest of the game. Lorenzo Carter has not looked good either of these first 2 games. He really hasn't made much of an impact. His biggest impact was a penalty at the end of the game that put the Washington football team even closer to field goal range. So just generally speaking, we haven't gotten a lot. Leonard Williams hasn't been doing much in the pass rushing department. Neither has Dexter Lawrence. Just generally, the pass rush sucks right now. Like, there is just nothing going on. 𝐚𝐟𝐟𝐢𝐥𝐢𝐴 had all day to throw on multiple occasions. He was surveying the field. He was getting wide open men downfield. The pass rush just isn't there, and it's a problem, and it's something that you can also point fingers towards Patrick Graham as well. I don't think this scheme is putting players in the position to make an impact as pass rushers. Last year, I remember with all these disguised coverages and disguised blitzes where guys were coming through on really creative blitz packages. You would see Darnay Holmes even come through, slap the quarterback around. You would see Jabril Peppers come through, get a sack here and there. I'm just not seeing any creative blitzes right now. Like, what is going on with Patrick Graham? I don't know. Skinny Patrick Graham is just not getting it done right now. I'm not sure why there's such a disconnect between him and his players, but again, We're not seeing any creative blitzes that are yielding any pressure. And then the one-on-one matchups with the pass rushers in general, also not creating any pressure. So it's a real problem. And if they don't get it fixed, I mean, many of us feel like the season might be over right now, but I know many of us are also hopeful that they can turn it around, but they're not turning it around unless they fix that pass rush.
So the reality is that when Patrick Graham is going with this cover one scheme, if he's going to play more man coverage, the pass rush needs to hit home. They need these guys to be stepping up and making plays when it matters most. They can't rely on the secondary to do all the hard work. If you look at the Baltimore Ravens, a team that blitzes a tremendous amount, plays a lot of cover one, a lot of cover zero, they get home a lot, and that's how they succeed. But the Giants, if they're going to play that, they need those interior guys, need those outside linebackers to step up and make big plays. But for the most part, they just didn't do that against the Washington football team. But when you look at the secondary, what's going on with James Bradberry? It looks like he's taken a big step back. When it comes to Terry McLaurin, a great player, a great receiver, but at the end of the day, James Bradberry just didn't get the job done, Anthony. When you're looking at him, why do you think he's struggling so much right now?
I don't know. Okay, so James Bradberry, it's really weird. I think it's a matter of scheme. I think it's a product of the scheme because James Bradberry, of course, we saw last season was a top 5 cornerback in the NFL. No debate. He really should have been on an all-pro team. And we're still seeing that talented play is there, right? We saw that interception at the end of the game where he just read Taylor Heineke and picked off that pass, jumped the route. He read that beautifully, like a veteran, like an elite cornerback. But for the greater part of the game, he did not play that well. He was getting beat by Terry McLaurin consistently. He wasn't playing tight coverage. It just wasn't good. So my thing is the Giants have really adjusted their scheme. They've completely overhauled it for whatever reason. And I just don't think that James Bradberry is a good fit for the new scheme. It's that soft zone scheme. James Bradberry is a very physical outside cornerback. And I don't think that his strong suit is sitting back in these soft zones and waiting for the receiver to come to him. I think that he likes to, yes, play a little off, play these zone coverages, but still play physical, still play closer to the line of scrimmage than he is, rather than just dropping back in these soft zones and waiting for somebody to run up to him and then turn back. Like, it's too late at that point. He's already giving up so much leverage underneath because of these soft zones. So I think that's the issue. I still think the talent is there for James Bradberry. Like I said, we saw it on that interception. That was such a smart football play. That was just a veteran, great, elite play. But we're not seeing that on a consistent basis. And I personally do believe that it's a product of the scheme that's just not working. Patrick Graham is going to have to overhaul this. I don't know why he overhauled it so much this offseason, completely changed it for weeks 1 and 2, but I think he's going to have to ixnay what he did the first 2 weeks and go back to what he did last season, because we all know how beautiful that scheme worked last season, especially down the stretch versus elite quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. I really think it's time for the Giants to consider going back to what they were doing last year, because this has been wildly different from what found them so much success in the 2020 season. So, yeah, James Bradberry, he's been struggling a lot. First 2 weeks have been really rough for him. He's, I think, only had 2 passes go his way that went incomplete. So it's just not looking good, but I do think there's time for him to turn it around. I don't think that he's washed up. I think he's still got that talent there. I just think he's being misused.
Okay, so, I want to jump over to Kenny Golladay and what he had to say to Jason Garrett and really his frustration that was boiling over during the game, Anthony. What do you think about that and, really what was going on at that time in the game?
Yeah, obviously I thought that was really interesting. You definitely don't want to see that. Kenny Golladay is underperforming right now. They're paying him a lot of money, but also it's not completely his fault. He's not being put in the proper position to make these plays. Jason Garrett is just not utilizing him correctly. He's not getting a lot of targets. They paid him to be a number 1 receiver, to be the top target. He's been honestly the 3rd target. He's been the 3rd receiver on this team throughout these games. Like, Darius Slayton is the one that they're targeting on those deep shots, those clutch plays. In my opinion, if that blown coverage that Darius Slayton got so open on, if that was Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton dropped the ball. Kenny Golladay wasn't dropping that ball, in my opinion. I think that he was getting underneath that and getting a touchdown. And I just don't understand why they're putting Darius Slayton in all of those positions to take those deep shots. I know that they connected on a deep one for a touchdown, Jones and Slayton, but still, I feel like that should be Kenny Galladay's role. Kenny Golladay should be taking the bulk of the targets. And then, of course, he's frustrated, as he should be. I understand why he's frustrated. He's not being used properly. I don't think he was yelling at Daniel Jones. Initially, it looked that way, but if you take a look at the clip again, he was actually yelling in that direction before Daniel Jones ever turned around or even sat down. And standing next to where Daniel Jones sat down was Jason Garrett. So I really think that Kenny Golladay was venting his frustrations at Jason Garrett for not using him properly in the game plan. He was making him an afterthought. Kenny Golladay was an afterthought, which, think about that. You're paying $18 million for a player and you're treating him like an afterthought. You're also spending the 1st round pick on a wide receiver that you're treating like an afterthought. Kadarius Toney also seemed a little bit frustrated on social media. He clarified everything is good, don't read into it too much, but he's frustrated for sure, as he should be. We're all frustrated by his lack of usage in the Giants' offensive game plan. So, we give credit to Daniel Jones. He had arguably the best game of his career last night. We give credit to Jason Garrett because he helped Daniel Jones have that great of a game. He called a much better game than he did in week one, but still, he's not without criticism. He didn't call a perfect game. It's not like he was out there calling a game like Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. It just looked like a better version of Jason Garrett, which is still not a Sean McVay or a Kyle Shanahan or even a LaFleur or anything like that. It's better, but it's still not great. So we're happy about that, but still, the underutilization of guys like Kenny Golladay, like Kadarius Toney, the overutilization, in my opinion, of guys like Darius Slayton, these are problems that other players are starting to notice, and Kenny Golladay was just frustrated on the sideline. And one thing that I'll say about it, he went over the sideline. He started yelling at Jason Garrett. No, his usage in the game plan, Kenny Galladay's usage in the game plan didn't really change after that. He still was an afterthought, but the Giants' offense did change after Kenny Golladay gave him an earful. They became far more aggressive until that final drive when they weren't, but they did start to play a lot better. Clearly, Jason Garrett fell to the passion from Kenny Golladay, heard his complaints, heard the criticism, and he did go out there and start to call a better game. So I really think that, sometimes with these coaches, they need an earful. I think sometimes they get in over their head and they get this inflated ego that Jason Garrett clearly has and has had since Dallas. So I think that it was honestly good. Hot take. I'm actually happy about Kenny Golladay yelling at Jason Garrett.
I am
I
too.
wouldn't have been happy. Yeah, I wouldn't have been happy about him yelling at Jones, but he yelled at Garrett, and then Garrett started to call a better game after that. So go ahead, Kenny. Go off, King. And Jason Garrett, please start calling better games like you did after Kenny Golladay gave you the earful.
Yeah, and you know what? I do have to say this as well. Jason Garrett, when it comes to calling the game, Darius Slayton had 6 targets and Kenny Golladay had 8 targets. I think some of those targets of Slayton should be going towards Golladay because Slayton simply can't catch the football unless it is in his breadbasket. Unless Danny Dimes delivers an absolute dime to him, like he did on that 9 route down the sideline. Unless he gifts it to him in the freaking breadbasket, he is not going to catch it. He drops way too many footballs, and he doesn't hang on to the contested ones either. So he really needs it to be perfect. And I think as for this offense, like you said, Jason Garrett called a much better game. There was some flaws, there was some deficiencies, but Daniel Jones made the throws. That is what I have been begging. Anthony and I both have been begging Jason Garrett, let him sling the rock. Let him throw it downfield. Let him use the arm talent. Let him do what he's good at doing, throwing the football and hitting his receivers. Finally, we saw less hook routes. We saw less curls. We saw less short concepts. They were pushing it beyond the sticks. They were fitting it into those zone coverages, and they did a tremendous job. And Daniel Jones was slinging the rock, and he was looking great, Anthony. But when you're looking at Kadarius Toney, he had 19 snaps, 0 targets. I don't even think Jason Garrett has plays in the playbook that fit his mold, like they can actually maximize his utilities. When you're looking at this, if you're Kadarius Toney, and he went on social media and said, I'm not even mad, this is just lame. How are you feeling towards this? Do you think that's deserved? Do you think that Kadarius Toney deserves to be frustrated? When you draft the guy 20th overall, you expect them to have an impact. And if you're going to not play your 20th overall pick, the Giants should have went and drafted an offensive lineman to play right tackle. And now that's what we're looking at in the face right now. We're staring Nate Solder's turnstile self in the face right now, asking, what are we going to do at right tackle if he doesn't pan out, or if Matt Peart isn't even playing at all? The Giants not even playing their 20th overall pick. I don't even think they know how to use him. They use a jet sweep for Sterling Shepard this game, the exact same play that got blown up by Von Miller, where Kadarius Toney got stopped. They used the same thing again, and then even block Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat completely ran by Kyle Rudolph, and Sterling Shepard's like, bro, you're not going to block their best pass rusher on a jet sweep. What am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? How is that a winning play? The scheme still sucks. Don't get it twisted. Daniel Jones just made plays. He was running the ball. He was doing good things. The Giants should have been running that read option run to that left side in the red zone because they couldn't stop it. You might as well be running it. I think they should have pulled that off. They should have pulled that play off in the final drive, 3rd and 7. They don't even target Kenny Golladay. Your best target, and you're not targeting him when it matters most. And I think that's why Golladay was pissed off. But what are you thinking about Kadarius Toney and his underutilization?
Yeah, I'm absolutely frustrated with it. I think it's ridiculous that they're not making him a focal point of the offense. I understand he had his left ankle taped a little bit. Maybe he's still dealing with a little bit of an injury. It's really not an excuse. The man should be out there making plays. He should be at least getting the ball. Let's see what he can do. They wanted to ease him into the lineup. They wanted to get him, some snaps, start getting him ready for the NFL. This is not the way to do it. 0 targets. I mean, come on. You know how easy it is? The Giants were running so many RPOs last night, and they were such great RPOs. They were really helping Daniel Jones see the offense, or see the defense rather, and make some good plays. He had a lot of great plays off of RPOs, and I think I'm actually going to do a little mini film breakdown just on the RPOs that the Giants did in this week's game and just highlight how much they helped Daniel Jones, slowed down the game for him, gave him the option to get something going in the running game, but also gave him the choice to be the aggressive one and start slinging the rock. And he oftentimes chose to be the aggressor and take the ball out of the running back's hands and throw some good passes. But one thing that I noticed is they did have one RPO that they missed on. I think it was, I know it was to Kenny Golladay, and Jones kind of threw it a little bit out there, and Kenny Golladay, I think he caught it, but it instantly went down. So here's the thing. Imagine that was to Kadarius Toney, and he hits him in stride, and Toney takes one of those slants, a la Odell Beckham Jr. to the house. That's what he was brought on this team to do. You run an RPO, get Kadarius Toney in a little single coverage from the slot, give him a slant, and let him just take off, break some tackles, and go. That's the whole idea. So why do they have these plays in the playbook that might be utilized best by a guy like Kadarius Toney, but they're not running it to Kadarius Toney? And don't get me wrong, Kenny Golladay, he's got that big frame, so sometimes on those RPOs, that's good because you have to sneak it over a linebacker. He can get it. Understand all of that. I really do. But if you're able to run it in a way where you might be able to hit Kadarius Toney in a slant where he's got a one-on-one to the house opportunity, you got to run that play. And you can also run some RPOs where you set up a wide receiver bubble screen or even just a wide receiver screen, or have him in the backfield on the RPOs with Kenny Golladay outside. Like, the underutilization of Kadarius Toney is ridiculous. It's horrible, and they really need to start utilizing him better because they did invest a very expensive asset into Kadarius Toney. And again, I understand he might be a little hobbled, but so is Kenny Golladay. So is Darius Slayton. People forget that he was a little injured in that final preseason game. You know, we've got hobbled players out there. Saquon Barkley's hobbled, and he's still out there, and he had a 40-yard rush. Who's to say that Kadarius Toney can't have a 40-yard reception off of a screen pass? Let's get him to work, bro. Let's get him involved in the game plan. This is inexcusable by Jason Garrett. Again, he called a much better game. I'm proud of him for that. He did have a pretty good performance last night. The rest of the team really didn't, but the underutilization of his most talented players is a damning thing, and it needs to be turned around instantly. Otherwise, I'm still going to be calling for Freddie Kitchens. I get it. Jason Garrett called a better game, but if he doesn't start utilizing his players better, I'm still going to be ready to move on from him, because you can't be investing this type of money and these type of assets into players just to not use them.
And that's the problem, right? The thing is, Dave Gettleman's primary job here is player evaluation and adding players to this roster. I don't know who's responsible for drafting Kadarius Toney. I don't know if it's Joe Judge, but it doesn't seem like they had a plan for him at all. You know what I mean? Like, he's healthy. Like, he's ready to go. I don't really get why they're not using him. And that's a big problem, in my opinion. It doesn't seem like we have any plays for him. The second they put him on the field, everybody knows he's getting the ball if it's going his way. They used him on 19 snaps yesterday. I don't understand, though. Like, if you're going to use a player like that, get the ball in his hands, get him into open space, use him on some slants, some whip routes, get the ball. And if not for actually getting production out of him, at least just to get him acclimated to the NFL, taking some hits, getting out there and getting some action, Like, it takes time for players to really realize how to operate at the NFL level and whatnot. And I think the Giants are not doing him any favors by keeping him out of the game plan. Like, take some of those plays. Instead of throwing to Darius Slayton, throw it to Kadarius Toney. And I don't know, instead of giving an end around to CJ Board, give a throw to Kadarius Toney. There are reps here that are for the taking, and the Giants just simply aren't giving them to their 20th overall pick. And it makes no sense to me, because now you're looking back in hindsight and you're like, these guys are literally paid millions of dollars to find players and have them make an impact immediately. And it doesn't make any sense to me that our second round pick, Azeez Ojulari, is a starting outside linebacker, but Kadarius Toney, who was picked 30 picks ahead of him, has barely even gotten any action. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Like logically makes zero sense, which is why it makes me think this offense has no idea what's going on. Hopefully they'll figure out a way. Hopefully it's just because maybe he's dealing with an ankle injury, or he's working his way back from COVID, and they're still trying to figure out how to best utilize him, and they will get it done in the future. But right now, we're sitting here like, what's going on, man? Like, what's the problem? But I do want to talk about Daniel Jones a little bit and how well he played. But before we do that, big shout out to our sponsor, BetQL. Want to get advantage of your sportsbook? You need to download BetQL, and the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads, over and unders, and player prop bets. Don't want to use the model and prefer to do the research yourself? BetQL has all the necessary tools for your research needs. It's actually fantastic. They have injury reports. They have reasoning for all their bets, statistical data, historical data, everything you need to really get ahead of your sports book. You can go over and head over to the App Store or Google Play Store to download BetQL now. You can also head to try.betql.co/fireside to get started. Enter the discount code Fireside at payment. Check out 25% for any of their subscription offerings. And make sure to check out their BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL. BetQL's best bet algorithm last week went 13-2 on 5-star bets for Week 1 NFL games between Thursday and Sunday. Don't miss out on your chance to beat your sportsbook by using all the BetQL offers. Like, guys, 13-2, if you put $20 on each one of those bets, you're walking away with free money. Like, they're literally giving you free money. I don't know how else to tell you. Every week they send me an email like, we were this successful. We hit on 70%. We hit on 80% of our bets. The algorithm is just phenomenal. It's great. So definitely go ahead over and try that out because you won't be disappointed, my friends. But let's talk about Daniel Jones for a second, a player who really showed us that he's capable of being a franchise passer yesterday. Now, I do want to see him play well against teams that do have a name, that aren't just the Washington no-names. I want to see him take on the Falcons next week and dominate them. I want to see him play well against Dallas. I want to see him play well against the Saints and show us that he can be the future of this franchise. And if a general manager comes in, they still feel confident that Daniel Jones can be the guy, right? And now if you eliminate those drops and all that stuff, we're looking at a game where he really had 320 plus yards, 2 passing touchdowns, about 100 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Instead, he finished with about 227 yards, a passing touchdown, and about 95 to 100 yards rushing with a touchdown on the ground as well. He would have had 2 rushing touchdowns if CJ Board didn't get that holding penalty, which also a BS call to begin with. But I don't want to dive into that. I want to focus on what DJ did well. He found his receivers. He only had one bad throw, and that was on an RPO where he tried to throw it across the middle, and that linebacker jumped up and almost got it. Couldn't really see that happening. A good play by the linebacker. But at the end of the day, he was accurate. He was putting zip on the ball. He got the ball to his receivers in space, right at the chest plate, in movement, so he wasn't throwing behind them very often. For the most part, he didn't put his receivers in any bad positions where they were fighting with the cornerback to get to the ball. He really gave them the advantage on every single throw that he made. And the first drive specifically was phenomenal. He was fitting balls in really nicely, converting third downs, showing off his legs with the read options on that left side, burned them. I mean, I saw Landon Collins chasing his ass for like a good minute on that big run down the sideline, and it was hilarious. Landon Collins was hauling ass down the sideline, and Daniel Jones is off to the races, man. Couldn't even touch him. It was awesome. So, for the most part, really, really impressed by his performance. Anthony, what are you thinking about Daniel Jones? It was just great all around. Hopefully we get to see more of that in the future.
Man, if he can string a couple more performances just like that in a row, have that same performance against Atlanta, maybe have the same performance against the Saints, we might turn our thoughts around. We might start to say this guy is the future. This guy is the answer, right? Because he looked phenomenal last night. He was a true threat in the running game and in the passing game. He made some throws towards the end of the game with anticipation that I have not seen him pull out of his bag at all in his career so far. Like, he was throwing with great anticipation, with great accuracy. He was throwing the ball so well downfield. He hit 2 great deep shots to Slayton. One was dropped, I know, but still perfect throws there, under duress as well on the second one. Got hit, player in his face, still threw it out there, gave Darius Slayton a chance to make a play, didn't complete it, but eventually those will be completed, and you have to give props where it's due, credit where it's due. Daniel Jones just played a great game. He was clean with the football, no fumbles against a really good defensive front, no turnovers at all. He was very smart with the football, and he was very accurate, and he did have some really good zip on the ball. So he was really dialed in. I'm very encouraged by the way he played, and I'm really excited to see if he can string some more performances like this in a row and try and turn this fan base around and get everybody behind him. We were behind him, then we kind of got in front of him. Now I think we're starting to get behind him again, but he really needs to continue to play at this level because that arguably was the best game of his career. Pro Football Focus graded it as the best game of his career. So, and again, what he did with the rushes around the end on those read options was phenomenal. He was making the perfect reads every single time. I loved it, and I really just want to see him continue this elite level of play because he honestly looked kind of elite last night. That was awesome. very encouraging from Daniel Jones there. So looking forward to seeing him hopefully have more performances just like that, and hopefully keep the Giants from spending their first round pick on a quarterback next year. I want Daniel Jones
Yep.
to succeed. I want him to be the guy, like you do too, Alex. We want Daniel Jones to succeed. We started to not believe, but a game like this really makes you think, man, maybe he does have the it factor. Maybe he does have this in him, and maybe it's just the situation around him really is the problem. But we'll see, man. I got to see a couple more great performances like this from him. But yeah, I can't lie. I'm really encouraged after last night.
Yeah, and look, last night we saw a franchise quarterback, straight up. We saw a quarterback that's capable of being a great passer, signal caller for this team for the foreseeable future. The scheme needs to improve, and it did, right? We saw this scheme looked half. It looked half good. It was halfway to good, and he put up nearly 30 points. And he did it on his back. You know what I mean? He was making the throws. And look, I'll give the credit to the receivers. Some of them had really great games. Like Sterling Shepard, he hauled in nine catches on 10 targets. He was great. Even Kaden Smith, we begged for the Giants to use Kaden Smith against Denver, begged for him to use him this week. And you know what he did? He had a couple of nice catches, and on that big Saquon Barkley run, he was the one that sealed that gap for him to run through. Kaden freaking Smith. So all those people that love Kaden Smith and hasn't gotten the opportunity, you were freaking right, and I'm proud of you because he deserved it. And he got on the field and he made some catches, he made some nice plays, and he sealed off that hole for Saquon Barkley to get through on that 41-yard dash. And that's what we wanted to see from Saquon. We wanted to see from Kaden Smith and this offense. Some running game success, not much. Daniel Jones, leading rusher for the Giants right now, not what you want to see. You don't want to see your quarterback leading the team in rushing unless you're Lamar Jackson. And even then, you still want to have a good running game. The Giants, the way that they're supplementing a weak running game is getting Jones activated on the read option. And that's what they had to do this week because they knew that Saquon Barkley is not the type of runner that's going to get 4 or 5 yards at a clip. They needed more production from somewhere, and it was going to be from DJ. And luckily, he actually performed quite well in that area. And he had a couple of questionable slides, but I'll let him get away with it because it had a couple of fantastic runs at the same time. But for the most part, this is what the scheme is going to look like moving forward. We're going to see a lot of DJ doing everything. He's going to be the guy carrying the load. The problem is he has to remain consistent. He must remain consistent, and the Giants must keep throwing the football. I don't really understand why they sometimes open up the playbook to more routes beyond the sticks and whatnot. But this is a team that is kind of missing Evan Ingram and even kind of missing John Ross right now. I wonder if John Ross catches up to that ball and catches that Darius Slayton drop. You know what I mean? Definitely something to consider. It's hearsay. Who knows what would have happened? But Darius Slayton said today he should have dove for it. He shouldn't have held up. He should have went all out. And I think that he probably regrets it. And someone really had the audacity to ask Dexter Lawrence if he slept last night. That's a dick move. I feel like that's kind of an asshole thing to ask a player. Like, did you sleep last night after messing up the game? And then you see the clip and he actually timed it up perfectly. And you're like there has to be a better question you can ask than did you sleep last night? You have one opportunity to ask a question and you asked a player, you had to try to get under his skin and ask him come on. It's ridiculous. It's kind of stupid. But Anthony, any last thoughts on Daniel Jones coming up against the Falcons, who had a really bad game against the Eagles last week, probably are going to have another bad game this week? This is a must-win game. We will be there, by the way, guys. So if you're listening right now and you want to meet up, if you have a tailgate, let us know where you're going to be at in the comments. We will come through. DM me on Twitter, send us your gate, whatever. Your section in the parking lot. We'll be there and we'll be walking around having some fun and enjoying some tailgates and some beers with the guys and the fans and the gals. So hopefully we'll see you guys there, Anthony. What are you thinking for the rest of this?
Yeah, I'm madly excited for this upcoming, Falcons game. Not necessarily to watch the Giants, but definitely excited to see Eli Manning get his jersey retired, get inducted into the Ring of Honor, and to see all of you awesome Fireside Giants fans. We will be doing as many meetups as we can in the parking lots, tailgating. We're going to try and get there nice and early as soon as the gates open, hang out with you guys, meet you guys. Many of you have messaged us on YouTube, on Twitter, in the Discord, saying, when are we doing a fan meetup? When are you guys going to be at a game so we can meet you guys? It's finally going to happen this upcoming Sunday. I can't wait. Flying up to New York, crashing on Alex's very comfortable couch for the weekend. Can't wait for that. But final thoughts on this week's game. We're going to continue to discuss it throughout the week, review it, film breakdowns, everything in between. But again, you have to be encouraged by Daniel Jones, but you have to be discouraged by just about everybody else, right? Discouraged by Joe Judge, discouraged by Patrick Graham, discouraged by the defense as a whole, the pass rush. Like, there's just a lot for the Giants to do. And if they don't turn it around in this week 3 game versus the Falcons, this is the get right game. Like, you can make some excuses for the Giants. This was a short week. It was a Thursday night game, so they really couldn't fix everything. They fixed some things, but maybe they just couldn't fix it all. But now they've got a long 10-week vacation, basically, to prepare. It's not a vacation because they got to work their asses off, work really hard for this Falcons game, but they got 10 days to do so. If they can prepare well and get ready for this game and come out with a commanding victory, we can feel a lot more confident and a lot more comfortable going ahead for the season. You got to keep in mind, it's now an 18-week season, 17 games. This is a longer schedule, so you got that extra game in there. Maybe you could throw away one of these losses from early in the season if you pick up a clutch win down the road. So I'm trying to be a little bit more optimistic. I've been very pessimistic recently, very negative and down on the Giants, rightfully so. But right now, I do want to try and be a little bit more hopeful. When your quarterback is playing well, that is the number one thing that will give you hope in this league. So I do have a little bit of hope in my heart right now because of Daniel Jones. Shout out to Danny Dimes. So I'm looking forward to next week. Falcons have a terrible secondary. Maybe Daniel Jones can tear that up, get 2 nice performances in a row. The team can carry that momentum and go forward. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, like I said, throughout the week, stay tuned to Fireside Giants. We're going to do plenty of reviews of last week's game, the Thursday night game, and plenty of previews for this upcoming game. And then once again, we will see you guys all on Sunday in New Jersey, in the parking lot. Can't freaking wait. And I know it's hard to say this right now, but one day it's going to be better. So let's go Giants.
Absolutely, my friends. But, let's just get a clean game next week. That refereeing crew, Steve Novak's crew, is absolute booty cheese. I think that they need to be shot to the moon, Pluto, beyond, maybe to another galaxy, because they just were awful, man. The holding call, even Washington had a couple of bad calls there. The roughing the passer on DJ, questionable. The trip on McKissick that they ruled, that wasn't a first down, also pretty bad. The offsides, bad call. Like, they had a lot of terrible calls. It was not just the Giants, it was also Washington. So I think when you see both teams getting bad calls, they just got to be better, because they ended up losing the Giants the game. If DJ gets that touchdown, the Giants win that game. If CJ Board doesn't hit with that call, the holding call, Giants win the game. So they lost this game for us, and I think that's something to be considerate of. But the Giants need to have a cleaner football game, right? The defense has got to step up. Offensive line's got to play a little bit better. They actually have exceeding expectations so far, and especially in pass blocking. Daniel Jones had plenty of time to get rid of the football at times. Of course, need some more separation from our receivers. A lot left to improve, but I think that I'm just leaving out hope there, like, just because I'm a psychotic fan, that one day it's just all going to come together, and it's going to be like all these troubles, all these things, and this one day it's just going to be a perfect storm, and it's going to be a perfect game. They're going to be clean, they're going to execute, and then it's just going to be good from there on. That's kind of what we've always been hoping for. It never happens, of course, but we're just hoping for that right now. It's not even like we have a lack of talent. Like, we have the talent to be a good team. We just aren't, so it's really like a foundational thing. I don't really know exactly. But hopefully things get better, my friends. Just one last shout out to our sponsor. Once again, thank you to BetQL, the only app you'll need to beat your sportsbook. Find their information along with a 25% off discount code in the description of this video, and also check out the special BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL. A free year, guys. Pretty easy. Free year of this service, and they're freaking awesome. Other offers obviously involved and bonuses, so make sure to go take advantage of those and beat your sportsbook. As always, make sure to subscribe below on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Have an awesome day. I know it's a little tough, but we're going to get through it together. Life goes on. We are all in pain as a unit. We're not alone in this. So have a great Friday evening. Enjoy the weekend. We'll be back with you over the weekend, breaking down some film and making sure you guys are all caught up with the Giants news. Catch you guys on the next video.